The past year has been very interesting for Donkey Kong Bonanza because a lot of people initially had this idea that this was a very easy game and that it was a very by the numbers Nintendo sequel. A lot of people came out and tried to talk down to this game and say it was disappointing or underwhelming. I myself wasn't super keen on the game when I first played it. It was it was on the lower end of Nintendo exclusives last year, actually, and I was pretty critical of the game and some of the decisions it made, and I felt like in a lot of ways it was too easy, and there wasn't really a lot of reason to come back to it. Imagine my surprise when 2 months after release, they out of nowhere release a DLC campaign, Emerald Rush, which is not only very, very good, but actually quite a bit better than the base game. And over the past year, I've been coming back to this mode regularly and just been really shocked by just how high quality it is and just how endlessly entertaining it is. Not only is the main Emerald Rush mode this extremely extensive experience that will last you quite a bit longer than the core experience, than the base game, it also involves a number of timed events, which will keep you playing indefinitely. Like, they can patch more things into this game pretty much whenever they want. And this kind of goes into what I've been saying for a while now, particularly about Animal Crossing and in particular about like a lot of other major Nintendo IPs, is that like we are past the point where audiences can reasonably decide on a game's quality within like the first month or so. Like, games are so long now and so expansive that it takes a lot of time to get through them. It takes a lot of time to experience everything these games have to offer. And because of situations like this, where games can get DLC and can get wildly different events that like wildly enhance the experience, right? You just can't possibly experience everything this game has to offer day one. And this is a very important thing to note when it comes to Emerald Rush, because when this game was announced, when the DLC first came out, within a day, you had a lot of YouTubers coming out saying that there wasn't a lot to this mode, that it wasn't very fun, that it wasn't very replayable, that it was a complete waste of money. Like, so many people tried to say this was like a very middling expansion that should have just been part of the base game. Like, the narrative was that like it wasn't all that great and that it needed a lot more in order to be worth the asking price. And the reality was so far from that it is kind of astounding, because I have spent more time with Emerald Rush now than I think I have with the base game. I have been playing this event, the Tiki Kong event in the Canyon layer, for like the past several days. Okay, I've been grinding this out. I've been trying to like improve my conditions. I've been trying to like, trying to figure out my build. I've been trying to understand my limitations. I've been trying to like, carve out a route. I've been doing everything I possibly can to get that Tiki Tonk statue, to try and get this event, to try to get this limited time event. I'm doing everything I possibly can to do this thing, and I'm having an absolute blast. And this is something that I don't see anybody really talking about, is just how much value Emerald Rush brings to the game, how much these events bring to the game. By having tangible in-game awards, having a bunch of statues just kind of on display on DK Island, like, this gives the player a ton of incentive to just go around and just play Emerald Rush over and over again. If you're the sort of person who loves the trophies in Super Smash Bros. Melee, this is a similar thing to that. And I feel like a lot of people felt that like these statues just kind of sit there, they don't do anything, they don't offer any value. But like, honestly, like, taking a look at the detail, taking a look at characters from the Donkey Kong franchise who didn't even appear in this game, seeing like all the love and care that was put into DK's legacy, like, this is a really incredible fan servicey feature, and something that I think deserves a lot of props. Something that I think like Nintendo is not getting enough credit for is how they were able to create a system in which they were able to create a endless feedback loop in which they release new content, they release new events, they release new statues, and players have to go out and get them. They have to put in the effort. And it's not like they can just do the same things over and over and over again and just get the statues. Like, no, you have to go to different layers. You have to learn different skill sets. You have to apply like all the mechanics in like very interesting, unique ways. Like it's just this side mode makes better use of Banana's core features than the actual main game. It's like an incredible experience, and it's hard too. Like this is the really interesting thing about Emerald Rush is how difficult it actually is because yeah, you can clear a round, but the better you do, the more resources you get that you can feed back into your awards, so you can upgrade, so you can like unlock more skills, so you can unlock more areas, so you can unlock more statues. There's just a seemingly endless amount of content to unlock here, and I find it so frustrating how the masses seem to feel as if this DLC was in any way disappointing, because if anything, this is one of the highlights of Bananza. It's one of the highlights of the Switch too. And I find it so frustrating how so many people seem to have not really given this expansion a chance at all. So many people I have seen have tried to say that Bananza is too easy, that it's over too soon, that it doesn't make full use of the mechanics, and yet they haven't tried Emerald Rush. It's just kind of startling in that way. So what you're slowly seeing happen as Nintendo unleashes features like the Donkey Kong Challenge or these timed Donkey Kong Bonanza events, like long after the rest of the industry has moved on, people like me are coming back to Donkey Kong Bonanza after a bit of a break, and we're playing this game extensively, putting dozens of hours into it, putting more time into it than actual brand new games. Okay. Like, I think I've played more Donkey Kong Bonanza this month than I have pretty much anything else. Like, I'm looking at all these things I have to do in the Donkey Kong Challenge, and I'm looking at the Emerald Rush, and I'm looking at all the statues I have to get. And I feel like, yeah, I'm ready to put like another several dozen hours into this game. Okay. Like, and I feel like that's something that the industry isn't really prepared for, is just how these kinds of events, these kinds of updates have kept Donkey Kong Bonanza relevant over the past year. Because I've seen a lot of people saying the game has fallen off, that it's not doing well, that it's not a system seller, and that's just very, very, very obviously not the case. This is embarrassing. It is crazy how the industry has been trying to damage control this game. But that's just Donkey Kong Bonanza. In theory, these kinds of updates and these kind of events or this kind of DLC can be applied to pretty much any major Nintendo franchise going forward. Like, what? Are we going to get an Ocarina of Time expansion? Are we going to get a Star Fox 2? Are we going to get, like, I don't know, like Mario Kart World, like, events? Like, there's all sorts of things that could happen that could theoretically come out of nowhere and just be huge deals. And I feel like people just don't really understand where we're at this point. Like, so many people don't want to acknowledge like that something like Donkey Kong Bonanza is like endlessly replayable and entertaining because of this mode. People just want to like ignore it and write it off and say it doesn't matter, and that it's like holding the game back somehow, or like was too expensive, or just wasn't good enough, or didn't come out quickly enough. Actually, yeah, that's actually a good point. Right now, people are complaining about Mario Kart World not getting DLC, right? That's been a major cope for a lot of these people for a while now. But the same people complained about Bonanza getting DLC within a couple of months. Okay. The double standard is remarkable. isn't it? It's like it's a doomed if you don't, doomed if you do situation for Nintendo here in a lot of ways. And I do think it's something that we really do need to move past, because although this kind of DLC is fantastic, we definitely shouldn't like be in this mindset that games have to have them in order to be popular or successful. It's something that we do need to talk about and address. But I think the most important thing we have to do, and I think this has been a big problem in the YouTube space, especially, is this idea that people can like buy, play, and review games within like a day. Because that's what I saw with Emerald Rush, was people were putting out videos the day of release trying to say this game was bad and not to buy it and how disappointed they were with it. And like, this isn't the kind of DLC you can experience in a day. And that's been a problem that I've been seeing among Nintendo games, especially over the past several years. But it's getting especially bad with the Switch 2 generation. It's getting especially bad with games like this. With games like Pokemon Legends ZA, with Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, with Pokemon Pokopia, with Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. Like, these aren't games that anybody's going to get through in like a day. That's just the problem now, is that these games are too long for that to even be remotely possible. And so, like, I do think, like, going forward that, like, game reviewers need to take more time playing the games and thinking about what makes them work and what makes them appealing to people. I feel like too many of these individuals are blasting through these games in an unrealistic time frame and getting sick of them before really having a good handle on what the game actually is. Because that's something I've noticed with Donkey Kong Bonanza, is that I did take a long break from it. Okay, because I did play through the base game. I played a lot of Emerald Rush. I got the credits on Emerald Rush, the roll, and I was just like, okay, I'll take a break and come back to it later. And that's what I ended up doing. And I feel like a lot of game critics, a lot of YouTubers would never, ever have done it. They would have had this mindset that like, oh, yeah, if I'm not having fun with this game, if I'm getting tired of it, then that must be bad, instead of, just taking a break and coming back to it organically and not forcing your way through it. Like, again, this shouldn't be a complicated topic, okay? This shouldn't be a complicated concept. Like, the simple fact of the matter is, normal people would never play through all of Emerald Rush in a weekend. It's not realistic for most people. And I do think that critics need to start thinking about this kind of thing going forward, because if people are coming back to Emerald Rush years later, collecting trophies, endlessly grinding, like, obviously the DLC is good. Obviously it's high value, but a lot of YouTubers put out a review of this game day one, dismissing it and saying it was lazy and stupid. And with something like Emerald Rush, which is constantly getting updates, constantly getting new features, constantly giving people reason to come back, these reviews, this day one coverage that was rushed to begin with is suddenly outdated and is suddenly completely obsolete. Like, Splatoon is a really good example of this, right? Because the narrative among the gaming journalism audience is that these games are all the same, they're repetitive, they're boring, I got sick of them, I don't want to play them anymore, they're finished. And among the actual fans, people put thousands of hours into this game because they're just endlessly entertaining. I feel like Bonanza is in the same position right now, where because of Emerald Rush, there is endless incentive to come back and play the game, but the average gaming critic is never going to notice and never going to care. Like, they have this mindset that this game launched unfinished and that this isn't something that should be supported, but that simply isn't the case. By releasing content in waves like this, Nintendo can guarantee that people are invested in their ecosystem, that they keep coming back, they keep getting engaged, that they keep grinding for the next major reward, and everybody is happy. It's just this really fun, endlessly entertaining thing, and people don't seem to understand that. The Emerald Rush situation is kind of interesting when you take into consideration how popular Bonanza was initially. Bonanza was this beloved Nintendo Switch 2 game, the highlight of 2025 for a lot of people, but it was very interesting how the audience tried to reject Emerald Rush, and in a lot of ways didn't even really give it a chance. Like the mode seems to be picking up steam. They're still promoting it during Nintendo Directs, and they're still doing new things with it. And people like me are coming out and acknowledging how good it is. But like, I'm very curious at what point like the general YouTube audience is going to accept this as a great DLC, because we're a year in now. I'm still playing it, and yet the masses still have this mentality that like this was somehow cheap or lazy. I can almost guarantee you that like I don't think people like Arlo even touch the DLC. Like I feel like the vast majority of Nintendo YouTubers like didn't even try to play this DLC because of how difficult and time consuming it is. Like I feel like a lot of these people have no idea what they're missing out on and just have dismissed it wholesale. I don't know how long this can last, how long this can survive, but like I do think people do need to address this as a real serious issue in which we're seeing gaming YouTubers not playing the content they're covering. And that should be an issue for everybody involved.